Welcome back to my channel, Star Booze.
For millions of Americans, Bing Crosby was the music to their life, the voice that helped them get through the battle depression and the development of modern America. His Christmas classics remain play in homes throughout the country every December. But underneath the calming voice lies a stunning secret that may change. How you view one of America's most always beloved entertainers. The man who sung White Christmas with such tenderness, held a secret darkness that would eventually destroy his own family. 2 of his sons committed suicide. Lives. Another perished from cancer. Ally suffered with addiction and lived. Their father casts a great shadow. What a horrible secret could cause the children to one of the most successful entertainers in history, to such desperate ends? What confession did Bing make that would haunt his boys for decades? And why would a family be blessed with fame, fortune, and seemingly infinite opportunity ends up with such a devastating legacy? So, today we're pulling back. The curtain falls on one of Hollywood's greatest tragic family stories. Before Harry dominated American entertainment, Lillis Crosby Jr. was simply a boy from Tacoma, Washington. Born in 1903 to a humble family. His dad worked as the bookkeeper and his mother handled the home has 7 children. Nothing his humble beginnings suggested he would become the voice of a generation. However, even average lives have turning points. For younger Harry, it was his obsession with a comic strip in the local newspaper called the Bingville Bugle. A neighborhood friend nicknamed Bingo was later abbreviated to Bing as a basic name that will soon become legendary. Young Bing's first encounter with show business arrived during the summer of 1917. He worked as a property boy at Spokane Auditorium and witnessed Al Jolson and other stars gave performances. These early experiences with entertainment legends sowed seeds that would someday evolve into one of the most extraordinary careers in American entertainment history. While at Gonzaga University, Bing showed promise in numerous areas, excelling at debate, athletics, and public speaking. He briefly pursued the law. School, before the siren call of music, tugged him in a different path. He teamed together with pianist Al Rinker. He began performing locally, though the early reputation was hampered by unreliability and a fondness for the wild jazz-age lifestyle. Despite this difficult start, Crosby's natural talent was evident. His baritone, the voice was warm and intimate. Each listener felt as if he was singing directly to them. A revolutionary approach at a time. The most famous vocalists employed a more theatrical projected style. By 1926, Crosby and Rinker have caught the attention of band leader Paul White. It-Man invited them to join him. Popular orchestra. White It-Man soon added pianist Harry Barreras to the mix. Constitute the vocal trio known as the Rhythm Boys. This teamwork put Crosby on a national map. Despite this, it wouldn't take long until his star Crosby outperformed his bandmates. Recorded his jazz-influenced rendition. In 1928, Old Man River became his. The first #1 hit meant that he was destined for solo glory. Following increasing tensions among the ensemble, the Rhythm Boys eventually disbanded, leaving Crosby free to pursue what would become one of the most successful solo careers in entertainment history. Crosby saw a meteoric rise during the 1930s. In 1931 alone, he appeared on 10 of this year's top 50 songs. His cinematic debut was in the big broadcast established him as not just a recording artist, but multi-talented entertainer. He quickly took over as host of NBC's Kraft Music Hall. He would occupy that position for the next decade, radiating his cheerful attitude into homes across America. What made Crosby was absolutely groundbreaking. natural conversational delivery, both music and on screen. Unlike the exaggerated performance styles of earlier entertainers, Bing appeared, he is really himself. This approachability made him the template. Influence on modern pop vocalists, everyone from Frank Sinatra to Elvis Presley and beyond. During World War II, Crosby's significance to American morale cannot be stressed. Yank magazine recognized him as the person who had did the greatest to improve the morale of military personnel stationed abroad. He recorded Irving Berlin's White. Christmas became an anthem of nostalgia and hope. Soldiers were far from home during holidays. In 1948, Crosby had reached the level of cultural saturation that is it's virtually unimaginable today. A National A poll ranked him as the most admired individual in America is ahead of military heroes, politicians, and even the Pope. Music Digest reported on his recordings, accounted for more than 50% of all documented American radio stations broadcast. Songs that year. Besides his artistic contributions, Crosby also revolutionized the technology side of entertainment. Frustrated with NBC required that his radio broadcast be. He performed live and advocated for the use of pre-recorded broadcasts. This approach eventually altered the industry. He invested in German tapes. Recording technology after Webby II and helped fund Ampex, the firm that created America's first commercial tape recorder. This innovation allows for edited and improved performances, fundamentally altered how music and radio broadcasts were made. Musicians like Lele, Paul immediately recognized the creative possibilities technology offered, resulting to techniques like multi-tracking, overdubs that characterize modern recording. On the surface, Bing Crosby seems to have it all. Unprecedented fame, wealth, invention, and millions of people adore him. He projected it. Image of the ideal American man, talented but humble, sophisticated yet accessible, prosperous but grounded. But as his professional life skyrocketed, ever greater heights and a completely different. The story was happening behind closed doors. One that might eventually cast a shadow over his legacy, leading to unimaginable tragedy for those closest to him. As Bing's career exploded superstardom, his personal life appeared to follow the ideal Hollywood script. In 1930, he married Dixie Lee, whose successful actress and singer, with her future career looks excellent. But as his popularity soared, and she gradually faded from the spotlight and retiring into the role of Mrs. Bing Crosby. Between 1933 and in 1938, they welcomed 4 sons into the world: Gary, twins, Philip, and Dennison Lindsay. For the public, they were America's ideal family. Talented, beautiful, and endowed with prosperity. Magazine spreads captured them in their huge estate, and the guys clothed in Bing and Dixie are wearing similar costumes and beaming with what seemed to be parental bliss. Holiday programs displayed. The family, gathered peacefully around the piano, reinforces Bing's image as the perfect family man. But what occurred when have the cameras stopped rolling? When there were microphones turned off? When America's adored crooner was only a father of 4 little sons? The reality behind the Crosby Mansion's doors would have stunned the millions who were invited. Bing's voice reached their homes, while America viewed Bing as the ideal father figure, patient, gentle, and smart in movies. Like Going My Way, for which he won an Oscar, plays a compassionate priest, and the actual parenting style could not have been more diverse. Beyond the gates of Bing ruled their estate strictly. Discipline and emotional detachment bordered on cruelty. The disconnect between Bing's public and private personas were stark. The man who radiates warmth on screen and over radio later accounts indicate that frequently chilly and aloof with his own 2 children. the voice that comforted the nation during wartime. Failed to offer, he provides consolation to his own sons. Dixie difficulties. Alcoholism made the family's situation worse. Problems. As her drinking got worse, become less capable of buffering between Bing's strict discipline and their children. The pressure to live Bing's shadow was merged with her own. Her declining career took a serious toll on her health and well-being. The Crosby boys were sent to military school at an early age, ages in which rigorous discipline paralleled their experiences at home. When they got home, they were faced with standards and severe sanctions for any perceived shortcomings or misconduct. According to subsequent accounts, physical punishment was common, with Bing allegedly applying a belt to his boys for even simple offenses like leaving a light-in or failing to complete a meal. But possibly more destructive than the physical discipline was the emotional emptiness. Bing was frequently missing owing to he has a hard career, and when he is present, often appeared incapable of showing affection or approval. His sons have grown up. They hunger for their father's approval. A validation came infrequently, if ever. The emotional distance was not limited to his family. Even Bing's closest professional associates admitted to, "I never really knew him." Phil Harris, who I worked with Crosby for years, and once remarked that despite their long connection, Bing has remained fundamentally unknowable, offering carefully created a veneer to even his inner circle. The pressures on the Crosby boys were tremendous. Not only were they faced with a rigorous, often unforgiving home. However, they also carried the burden of their father's popularity is everywhere. They weren't simply boys attempting to navigate their way across the globe. They were Bing Crosby's sons, anticipated to live up to unreasonable ideals while constantly compared to their legendary father. In 1952, tragedy occurred, struck when Dixie died from ovarian cancer. At only 40 years old, her death is erased. The boys receive little maternal protection, had left them even more directly under their father's influence. A loss, however, destroyed the entire family. Bing, true to tradition, maintained his stoicism. The public's face. Only a year later, Bing Catherine is a remarried wedding actress. Grant was 30 years his junior. They went on to have 3 additional children: Harry, Mary Frances, and Nathaniel. According to several stories, Bing's parenting style softened greatly with his second family, creating yet another unpleasant in contrast with his older sons, who had had such a strange father. As Gary, Dennis, Lindsay, and Philip grew, they each battled to enter adulthood, create their own identities separately from their legendary father. All 4 I attempted to follow in Bing's entertainment footsteps to varying degrees, but none were similar. Success. How could they? Their father wasn't only successful, he was a cultural phenomenon, a once-in-a-generation genius who had essentially transformed the landscape of American entertainment. The significance of the Crosby name proved to be a blessing and a curse. It opened doors, yes, but it also created expectations that were virtually impossible to satisfy. And beneath every one of the Crosby boys was harboring emotional traumas that will manifest in progressively troublesome ways as they matured. The stage was prepared for family tragedy would gradually develop, painfully and eventually tragically, in the decades to come. Consider being born as the son of the most famous entertainer. In America, all doors should be open for you. Every opportunity should be inside. Reach. The world should be yours. Conquer. Imagine the same father, the one loved by millions, returning home to criticize and penalize your every step, every mistake, and remind you daily that you will never be as tall as he is. Legacy. This was the reality for Gary Evans Crosby. Born in 1933, Bing's he was the firstborn son and had been from boyhood, was catapulted into the spotlight and appeared. He appeared on his father's radio show as demonstrating curiosity. These father-son duets enchanted America. Listeners are fully oblivious of the tension and anxiety existed behind the seemingly heartwarming performances. As Gary became older, he naturally gravitated towards entertainment, desiring both his father's approval and his personal identity. He landed film jobs and made appearances on famous TV series of the day. He has published music and played live, trying urgently to emerge from his father's shadow. But that shadow alone became longer and darker as time passed. Gary was unable to find his own spot in the sun. Like his Gary, his father struggled with alcohol, the conflict that would haunt him throughout his mature life. Unlike Bing, Gary eventually decided to address his demons are exposed publicly. In 1983, he released a memoir with a purposefully sarcastic tone. The title, Going My Own Way, is apparent, refers to his father's well-known flick. The book landed like a bomb on Bing, a meticulously created legacy. In 8 pages, Gary recalled a childhood marked through mental neglect and physical abuse. He described the belt beatings inflicted by his father for small transgressions. Describes a household governed by terror rather than love, perhaps the most harmful. Gary portrayed his image in comparison to Bing's father as cold, distant, and unable of displaying affection towards his sons. Gary's words created an image of Bing that America failed to recognize. The cruel and a temperamental man who was he was emotionally abusive to all of them, children. He wrote about his father, would warmly reach out to others. Kids, but couldn't display the same. He has affection for his own sons. The public exposure of the private Bing Crosby startled America. How could? The man's voice represented warmth. Millions have found consolation in this. What's the difference behind closed doors? Gary's memoir opened a rift not just in the public's impression of Bing, but within the Crosby family, along with several Gary siblings are supporting his account, and others are disputing it. Despite this, Gary overcame his personal challenges and measure of calm in his senior years, getting sober and reconciling with others' family members. But his recovery arrived. It is too late to repair the deepest scars. Gary died in 1995 from lung cancer at the age of 62, considering his complicated sentiments regarding his father went to the grave. The twins Philip and Dennis were born in 1934, shared not only their birth date. However, many of the problems are the same. Philip I endeavored to follow the entertainment path, appearing in movies like Holiday Inn as a young actor. Occasionally, he performed with his father. Later in life, he diversified, working as a stockbroker and even served in the Marine Corps. Despite his various activities, he has never escaped Crosby's shadow. Throughout his life, Philip fought alcoholism and relationship problems, cycling through 4 weddings. Unlike Gary and Philip, he publicly defended his father following despite never having published his memoir, directly refuted its specifics. Allegations. This stance increased animosity between the brothers, further shattering an already fractured family. Dennis, Philip's twin, is dabbled in entertainment and appeared in films like The Night the World Exploded and make televised appearances. As with his siblings, his career never achieved great traction on its own. Merits. His private life was just as troubled. He suffered with alcoholism, encountered financial troubles, experienced turbulent relationships, pressure of being a Crosby without reaching Crosby level. Success weighed heavily on him, resulting in a feeling of failure that he would never shake. Then there was Lindsay, the youngest of Bing's firstborn son's marriage. Born in 1938, like his brothers, he made little endeavors at an entertainment career, however, never gained his feet. He appears in several movies and television series, but his professional life was predominantly, he was defined by what he wasn't, what he was. Lindsay's struggle with alcohol was perhaps the most harsh among the brothers. His addiction, issues mixed with financial challenges. That deteriorated following his father's death. They created a perfect storm of sadness. When the Crosby estate was settled as follows: Bing's death. In 1977, the four sons learned that their inheritance was kept in a blind trust that only pay out tiny amounts, sums until they reached the age of 65. The financial arrangement felt like a final judgment from beyond the dead. Lindsay saw this revelation as this is the last straw. On December 11, 1989, at the age of 51, he committed suicide. He had a rifle at his Las Vegas residence. He leaves behind a wife and children. A long letter allegedly referenced his financial problems. The family were. The catastrophe had left everyone saddened, but it was far from over. Fewer than 2 years later, on May 4th, in 1991, Dennis followed his younger brother's path, committing suicide at Taj 56. He, like Lindsay, used a firearm. And, like Lindsay, he has left behind financial problems and emotional distress. It had gotten terrible. 2 suicides. Within 2 years. 2 sons of America. Cooner, their beloved, has died by their own hand. The pattern was too evident to ignore. Forcing the public and the remaining family members must confront uncomfortable questions regarding Crosby legacy. Philip is currently the solitary survivor. The son of Bing's first marriage continues to deal with his own demons. He remained more positive. Gary had a different perspective on his father, expressed despite his continued challenges. Alcoholics recounted their own stories regarding his lasting impact. Upbringing. On January 13, 2004, Philip died of heart failure at the age of 69, bringing the heartbreaking story of Bing's 4 sons' conclusion. Nobody had attained the age of 70. Nobody had found the calm and success that had seemed birthright given their famous lineage, and 2 had discovered life. So awful that they decided to end it prematurely. But what distinguishes this story from merely another Hollywood disaster was Bing himself confessed years ago, earlier, one that cast these subsequent events in an even more tragic light. Here's where our narrative goes, most surprising turn. A moment that would eventually cast the entire Crosby A. New family tragedy has occurred. Heartbreaking brightness. In 1959, at the highest zenith of his stardom influence, Bing Crosby did something almost unheard of for a star like his stature. He admitted a profound failure, not during his career, which was more successful as ever, but in the job. That should have meant the most to the man who had portrayed the ideal father figure for all of America. During an interview, Bing sighed a shocking admission regarding his parenting. He admitted he hadn't. He did a good job raising his boys. He apologized to failing them and providing them. There is too much labor and discipline. Money, but too little of what? His time and attention were valuable resources. He added that he and his mother had. They did their best, but his words revealed a man who realized he had gone short where it mattered most. Bing's 1959 confession has taken on even more vital relevance. In light of what followed, was it an attempt at reconciliation, arrived too late? A moment of clarity about his failings he was unable to translate into meaningful change, just a rare breach in his public character that indicated deeper regrets. Rarely acknowledged even himself. Whatever his intentions, confession is a critical moment understanding the Crosby family tragedy, a recognition by Bing himself that he had failed in the position most. His public image is centered on the ideal American father. On October 14th, in 1977, Bing Crosby died from a heart attack. At age 73, after playing golf in Spain, engaged in the leisure activity he enjoyed most. His death was mourned internationally. Tributes have focused on his exceptional contributions to entertainment and American culture. The world had no idea of his death, would not mark the end, but rather begin of a devastating final chapter in the Crosby family's story. One that will show the true cost of fame and the catastrophic consequences when public image and private realities diverge. Sharply.